Today is Thursday, July 7th. We'll tell you about a 4th of July shooting that did not happen, thanks to someone now being called a hero citizen. Also, another heat wave bringing triple-digit temperatures to millions of Americans today. Plus, what treatment pharmacists are now allowed to prescribe for COVID-19, what Apple's new lockdown mode means, and what new data shows about the number of friends people have today compared to the past and why. All that and more stories to know coming up. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. If not for one person with a keen ear, the country might be mourning another 4th of July tragedy today. Instead, everyone is okay. And police say 2 would-be attackers are in custody. Investigators explained what happened this week in Richmond, Virginia. They say a hero citizen overheard a conversation about a mass shooting being planned on a big Independence Day fireworks show. So that person called police to report it. And officers say, quote, that one phone call saved numerous lives because the person heard right. Police worked with the FBI and Homeland Security Department to track down 2 suspects who apparently had 2 assault rifles, a handgun, and hundreds of rounds of ammunition. They were arrested for being non-American citizens in possession of guns. But investigators say more charges are possible. So far, police have not said why the 2 men might have been planning an attack, but the investigation continues. Meanwhile, authorities are revealing more details about the mass shooting at a parade in Highland Park, Illinois. They say the suspect confessed to the shooting and said he actually considered a second 4th of July attack. Apparently, after the first one, the gunman drove up to Madison, Wisconsin, where he saw another 4th of July event. Investigators say he thought about continuing his shooting spree there, but reconsidered because he wasn't prepared enough for it. So he turned back to Illinois, where he was eventually arrested. Still, even with all this information, the accused gunman has not given police a clear motive. He's already been charged with murder, but even more charges are expected. If convicted, he'll spend the rest of his life in prison. Police in Uvalde, Texas, are facing new questions over a recent report about the mass shooting at an elementary school there. It found there were several missed opportunities to stop the attack before it started, which would have saved the lives of 19 children and 2 teachers. For example, it says an armed Uvalde police officer spotted the gunman before he went into the school with a rifle. The officer had him in his gun sights, but was waiting for permission from his supervisor to shoot. Well, the report says he didn't hear a response over the police radio, so turned around to get confirmation, and when he looked back, the suspect was already in the school. And that's just one of the so-called pre-incident failures this report laid out, along with several other problems that happened throughout the incident. The biggest one being that officers didn't try to go into the classroom where the gunman was shooting for over an hour. This report came from the Advanced Law Enforcement Rapid Response Training, aka ALERT Center. And that's widely recognized as the leading active shooter training provider in the country. But that report was just one of several reviews launched in the aftermath of the worst school shooting in Texas history. Stay tuned. This week, former President Trump's top White House lawyer is going to talk to the lawmakers investigating the January 6th Capitol riot. Pat Cipolloni reportedly agreed to testify under oath tomorrow, and his testimony is expected to be among the most important of the committee's more than 1,000 interviews so far. That's because, as other witnesses have said, Cipolloni was there for a lot of significant moments in the White House after the presidential election, including on January 6th. And some have said Cipolloni had concerns that Trump and his allies were considering illegal actions to overturn the results. It's not clear exactly what he is going to say, though, since he's been quiet about this investigation so far. As you know, former President Trump says he did nothing wrong related to January 6th. Cipolloni's testimony is happening tomorrow behind closed doors, although it will be recorded. The next public hearing is happening next week. The federal government has some new plans to help alleviate student debt, including one rule that could impact almost all of the more than 40 million borrowers in the United States. The Department of Education wants to remove interest capitalization where it's not required by law. So, in other words, unpaid interest would not be added to the balance of the person's total debt. The proposal also makes it easier for students who say they were defrauded by for-profit colleges to get their loans forgiven. And then it calls for expanding loan forgiveness for students entering public service jobs, like teaching, nursing, and public interest law. Another change the Education Department wants to make is simplifying the debt relief process for people with disabilities and adding more disabilities that qualify. Though some Republicans worry these changes could make inflation worse. The Biden administration is hoping to finalize the rules by this fall. That way, they can go into effect by next summer. Some big American cities are in for the hottest temperatures so far this summer, like in Dallas and Oklahoma City, where it's expected to top 103 today. On top of high humidity, that could make it feel about 10 degrees warmer than that. Or Las Vegas, that will likely hit the 110-degree mark before the week is out. And even more records are expected to be broken elsewhere, since a heat wave is impacting much of the plains and the South today. Overall, about 80 million Americans are under extreme heat warnings or advisories. If it seems like you've heard a lot about heat waves this summer already, even more than a usual summer, you'd be right. AccuWeather points out that there have already been a substantial number of days and places with triple-digit temps so far this year, and a lot more are still ahead. All right, we have much more news for you still ahead, but first, a quick break for our sponsor, BetterHelp Online Therapy. We all know how powerful our brains are. They control everything we do. So why not treat our minds with the care they deserve? I've experienced it myself, that when I invest the time and effort into better understanding what's going on in my mind and how to make sure I'm caring for it properly, it has a positive impact on the way I experience all of life. I show up for my family better, I run my business better, and I take care of myself better. And part of that caring for my mind is through therapy. Having a professional to talk things out with is surprisingly helpful. And one convenient way to try therapy is through BetterHelp. It offers video, phone, and even live chat therapy sessions. So you can be face-to-face on video if you want, or you don't have to see anyone on camera if you don't want to. You can be matched with a therapist in under 48 hours. And it's easy to switch and request a new therapist if you don't click with the first one right away. Plus, our listeners get 10% off their first month at betterhelp.com/newsworthy. That's BetterHelp, H-E-L-P, betterhelp.com/newsworthy. It's no longer just doctors that can prescribe a certain COVID-19 treatment. The FDA is now allowing state-licensed pharmacists to prescribe an antiviral pill. The drug called Paxlovid is authorized for the treatment of mild to moderate COVID-19 in adults and kids who are considered high risk for getting severe disease. The pharmacist must now review the patient's health records and look for any kidney or liver problems and all other medications they're taking. Still, the American Medical Association was not all that happy with the FDA's decision. The AMA's president said ideally when someone gets Paxlovid, they should be monitored for side effects and get follow-up care. And that goes beyond a pharmacist's training. But since the treatment must be given within 5 days after symptoms begin, the FDA says giving pharmacists the ability to prescribe it will help make sure patients who may need it have timely access to these pills. Even as some people are fearing another recession, it seems the Great Resignation is still in full swing. In other words, the job market is still hot. The number of job openings and people quitting their jobs are still high, and layoffs are near record lows. That's based on new data from May, released this week from the U.S. Labor Department. The info does show a slight dip in the number of job openings, but not by much. There were 11.7 million openings in April, but 11.3 million in May. And the 4.3 million people choosing to leave their jobs in May is down only slightly from the peak in March. The big question now is, how long will this strong labor market last? Apple is launching what it calls lockdown mode. It'll be a new security option on the latest software updates for iPhones, iPads, and Mac computers. It's specifically to prevent rare but sophisticated cyber attacks and targeted spyware. It's mostly meant to increase security for people like journalists, activists, and politicians who may be targeted by governments who want to read their text messages and emails or even listen in on their surroundings. The new lockdown mode limits certain features that have been used in the past for sophisticated hacks. So, for example, it won't let you accept FaceTime calls from unknown users, and it will not automatically load preview links when someone sends a message. Apple calls it an extreme measure and emphasizes it's an optional setting. Amazon Prime members, you can now get a new perk, free food delivery. Grubhub struck a deal with Amazon this week to offer free membership of Grubhub Plus for 1 year. It's normally $9.99 a month, and it means no delivery fees on orders over $12. Reports say Grubhub did well at the start of the pandemic, but last year, as people returned to restaurants and labor shortages hit a lot of industries, the company started to struggle. This deal with Amazon will likely expand Grubhub's reach and give it more cash flow. And for Amazon, it adds another benefit to a Prime membership. Amazon Prime members must activate this new perk. We put a link in today's show notes on thenewsworthy.com. A new dog is joining the world's largest group of purebreds. The American Kennel Club announced the Bracco Italiano has received full recognition, making it the AKC's 200th breed. This means Bracco Italianos can now compete at AKC dog shows, including the prestigious Westminster Kennel Club event next year. The Bracco Italiano is a hunting and retrieving breed with a deep bark, weighing between 55 and 90 pounds. It has orange and white or brown and white fur and floppy ears. If you're thinking of adopting a Bracco Italiano, the AKC says they need regular exercise and mental stimulation. They're also known to be sensitive and gentle-natured and become close friends with children. But fair warning, be prepared for shedding and drooling. That's it for the main news today, so now it's time for Thing to Know Thursday. But first, thanks to our sponsor, ZocDoc. I think it's so important to advocate for yourself when it comes to your medical care. I'm definitely the type of patient that comes in with my list of questions because, let's face it, no one knows what I'm experiencing or what I need better than me. And similarly, no one knows what you are looking for in a doctor better than you. That's why ZocDoc can be such a great partner in your search for the right kind of care. They make booking a great doctor surprisingly pain-free. ZocDoc is a free app that shows you doctors who are patient-reviewed, take your insurance, and are available when you need them. Simply go to ZocDoc.com, choose a time slot and whether you want to see the doctor in person or do a video visit, and just like that, you're booked. Every month, millions of people use ZocDoc, and I'm one of them. It's my go-to whenever I need to find and book a new doctor. Go to ZocDoc.com/newsworthy and download the ZocDoc app for free. Then start your search for a top-rated doctor today. Many are available within 24 hours. That's ZocDoc, ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. ZocDoc.com/newsworthy. Now back to Thing to Know Thursday. So there's a big difference researchers have noticed between Americans today and those of the past. These days, people have fewer friends. A recent YouGov study found 27% of millennials say they have no close friends, and 22% said they have no friends at all. Whereas back in 1990, the vast majority of Americans said they had at least one best friend. Experts say it makes sense that things are changing now, especially since the pandemic made people more isolated. But they point to other reasons for the trend too, like how Americans tend to be more geographically mobile. But here's the thing. Other studies have shown that friendship lengthens our lives, improves our work performance, makes us better parents, and broadens our mind. So researchers have a piece of advice for people who want to start building more meaningful friendships. Put in the time. They say it takes about 50 hours of time spent together to go from being acquainted to becoming casual friends. It takes about 90 hours to go from casual friends to good pals, and 200 hours to become confidants. Thank you so much for listening today. If you enjoyed the Newsworthy, please be sure to share it with a friend or 10 today. Thank you so much in advance. We'll be back with much more news to know tomorrow. Until then, have a great day.